Let go of me. You are hurting me. Let me go!
Not until you listen then!
You're hurting me!
Maribel had told herself she would be fine. It had been 2 months since she disappeared from Luca Moretti's life. 2 months of changing her number, taking different routes to work, and sleeping with her bedroom door locked tight. 2 months of convincing herself that if she stayed quiet long enough, he would give up. That night she believed it. The Aurelia Gala glittered the way rich places always did. Marble floors, soft music, chandeliers hanging like frozen light above people who laughed too loudly. Maribel stood beside Evelyn, her only anchor in the room, holding a glass she hadn't touched. "You okay?" Evelyn asked. Maribel nodded. "I just want to stay an hour." She never got the chance. She felt it before she saw him. Fingers closed around her wrist, hard, sudden, familiar. The grip sent a sharp shock through her arm. Maribel turned and there he was. Luca. Her chest tightened. The world shrank. "You think you can just walk away from me?" he said, his voice low and smiling like they were sharing a private joke. "Let go," Maribel whispered. "You're hurting me." He didn't. They were standing under the chandelier, right in the open. People were everywhere. She tried to pull back, but Luca's grip slid from her wrist to her forearm, tightening like a trap. "Shut up," he said. "We need to talk." She yanked harder. He pulled harder. Then his hand moved into her hair. The pain hit so fast she couldn't breathe. Luca twisted his fist at her scalp and dragged her backward. Her knees bent. Her free hand clawed at his wrist as her voice broke. "Stop," she cried. No one moved. A woman in a silver dress glanced over, then turned away. A man checked his phone. Conversations continued. Music played on. Luca laughed softly, close to her ear. "You embarrassed me," he hissed. "You think you can disappear?" Maribel's heart hammered. The humiliation burned worse than the pain. She was bent over in the open, helpless, while more than 50 people watched and did nothing. Then she saw him. Across the room, leaning against the bar, stood a man she didn't recognize. Korean, early 30s maybe. Crisp white shirt, sleeves rolled to his forearms. A glass rested in his hand, untouched. He wasn't filming. He wasn't whispering. He was just watching. Watching Luca drag her. Watching the crowd look away. His face showed no anger. Only calm focus. Maribel caught one last glance as Luca yanked her hair again. The man set his glass down. Slowly. Carefully. Then he started walking toward them. No rush. No panic. Just steady footsteps that cut through the noise. The room seemed to thin around him. People shifted without knowing why. Luca didn't notice at first. He was too busy pulling Maribel toward the balcony doors. Then the footsteps stopped. 3 feet away. Luca froze. Maribel felt it, the hesitation in his grip. "Let her go," a calm voice said. It wasn't loud. It wasn't a shout. But the way it was spoken made her stomach drop. Luca straightened, still holding her hair, trying to look bigger. "Mind your business," he snapped. "This is between me and my girl." The man tilted his head slightly. "She's not your girl." Luca laughed, sharp and forced. "You don't know who you're dealing with." The man's hand rested at the front of his jacket. He unbuttoned it once. The room went quiet. Not the soft kind of quiet. The kind that pressed down. Luca's face changed. Color drained from it. "Kang Dae-hoon," he breathed. "Wait, that Kang Dae-hoon?" The man didn't smile. "And you just put your hands on someone under my protection." Maribel blinked. She had never seen him before. Never spoken to him. Yet he spoke her name like he already knew it. Luca's grip went slack. Maribel stumbled forward, catching herself on the edge of a table. Her head throbbed. Her legs shook. "I'm leaving," Luca said quickly. "I didn't know. I'm gone." He stepped back once. Then again. Then turned and walked fast toward the exit, like something was chasing him. Kang Dae-hoon watched him go. Then he spoke again, his voice carrying through the room. "If you ever touch her again," he said calmly, "you won't walk away." Luca didn't look back. Evelyn rushed to Maribel's side. "Come on," she whispered. They moved through the crowd. People stepped aside, eyes averted, embarrassed by what they'd seen and ignored. As Maribel reached the door, she looked back once. Kang Dae-hoon was still standing there, perfectly still. And somehow she knew. He hadn't just saved her. He had found her. The car door slammed shut and the noise felt too loud in the quiet garage. Maribel sat frozen in the passenger seat while Evelyn started the engine with shaking hands. Neither of them spoke at first. The hum of the car pulling out of the garage filled the space where words should have been. What the hell just happened? Evelyn finally asked. Maribel swallowed. Her scalp still burned where Luca had grabbed her. Her wrist throbbed. I don't know, she said. Her voice sounded far away like it belonged to someone else. I've never seen that man before. But he knew your name, Evelyn said, glancing at her. And Luca looked terrified. Maribel stared out the window as the city lights blurred past. He called him Kang Dae-hoon. Evelyn's grip tightened on the steering wheel. I've heard that name. Maribel turned slowly. What do you mean? My cousin's boyfriend works private security, Evelyn said. High-end events. He told me about someone like that once. Someone connected. The kind of man people don't cross. Maribel's stomach twisted. Connected how? Evelyn hesitated. The kind of connected that doesn't need bodyguards to make people listen. They drove the rest of the way in silence. When Evelyn dropped her off, Maribel locked the door behind her, checked the windows, then checked them again. Her apartment felt smaller than it ever had. The quiet pressed in. She sat on the edge of her bed and stared at her phone. No messages. No missed calls. For 2 months, Luca had filled her life with noise, calls from unknown numbers, messages she didn't answer, the constant fear that he was close. Now there was nothing. That scared her more. She barely slept. Every time she closed her eyes, she felt fingers in her hair, heard laughter in her ear. When morning came, she packed a bag. Clothes. Documents. Cash. Everything she would need to disappear again. She had done it before. She could do it again. At 8 a.m. her phone rang. Unknown number. Her heart slammed against her ribs. She stared at the screen until the ringing almost stopped. Then she answered. Maribel. Her breath caught. She knew that voice. How did you get this number? She asked. I've had it for a while, Kang Dae-hoon said calmly. Her hand shook. What does that mean? It means you're safe, he replied. Luca won't bother you again. Maribel stood and began pacing the room. What did you do to him? Nothing he didn't bring on himself, Kang said. He paused. But that's not why I'm calling. She stopped moving. Then why? Because last night wasn't random, he said. I was there to see if Luca still had control over you. Her chest tightened. What are you talking about? Kang's voice stayed steady. Luca borrowed money from the Calderi group. The name meant nothing to her, but the way he said it made her stomach drop. He couldn't pay, Kang continued. So he offered collateral. Maribel's mouth went dry. What kind of collateral? You. The word hit her like a slap. No, she whispered. That's not possible. The contract was signed 10 days ago, Kang said. He gave them your address, your work schedule, and proof he could still reach you. Her legs gave out. She sat hard on the bed, the phone pressed to her ear. He said he loved me. Kang was silent for a moment. Last night was about proving he still owned you. Tears burned her eyes. Why are you telling me this? Because I bought the contract. Her mind couldn't catch up. You what? I paid the debt, Kang said. You're not theirs anymore. Maribel shook her head. I'm not something you can buy. I know, he replied. But they don't see people the way you do. Silence stretched between them. There's a car outside your building, Kang said. Black sedan. Driver's name is Min-jae. He'll take you somewhere safe. She walked to the window. Her breath caught. The sedan was there. The same one she'd seen before. Outside the cafe. Across the street at night. She had told herself she was imagining things. You can say no, Kang added. You can try to run again. But Luca isn't the only one who knows about you now. Maribel looked down at the street. 2 blocks away, police lights flashed in front of Luca's building. Her phone buzzed with a single message. You're making the right choice. She picked up her bag. Then she walked downstairs and got into the car. The black sedan moved through the city without a sound. Maribel sat in the back seat, hands folded tightly in her lap, her packed bag pressed against her leg. Min-jae, the driver, did not speak. He did not ask where she was going. He only watched the road, calm and focused, like this was just another routine drive. They left the crowded streets behind and climbed into the hills where the lights grew softer and the buildings larger. Tall gates opened without delay. Cameras followed the car. The sedan slipped underground, disappearing into a private garage. Min-jae stepped out first and opened her door. This way, he said quietly. They entered a private elevator. No buttons. Just a card swipe and a soft hum as the doors closed. The elevator rose smoothly, and Maribel felt her ears pop as her chest tightened with nerves. When the doors opened, she froze. The penthouse stretched wide and silent before her. Floor-to-ceiling windows framed the city like a painting. The marble floors reflected the lights perfectly, clean enough to feel untouched. Everything was white, black, and gray. No photos. No decorations. No warmth. Controlled. Powerful. Untouchable. "This is the Virion Residences," Min-jae said. "Mr. Kong will arrive later." He gestured down a quiet hallway. "Your room is the second door." Maribel wanted to ask questions, how long she would stay, how he knew what she needed, but Min-jae was already gone. The elevator doors closed behind him, leaving her alone. Her footsteps echoed as she walked to the bedroom. It was larger than her entire apartment. A king-sized bed sat in the center, white sheets pulled tight. The bathroom gleamed behind a glass wall. She opened the closet and stopped. Clothes, jeans, sweaters, dresses, all her size, all her style. Simple, comfortable, nothing flashy. Everything still had tags on it. Her throat tightened. She picked up a folded paper on the nightstand. "You're safe here. Sleep." No name. No explanation. Maribel sat on the edge of the bed, holding the note. Her body felt heavy. Safe but not free. Protected but watched. She didn't know where the line was, and that scared her almost as much as Luca had. She lay down fully dressed and stared at the ceiling. When she woke, the smell of food filled the air. She checked her phone. Evening already. Maribel followed the scent into the main room. Kang Dae-hoon stood at the dining table, setting down containers of food. He looked up briefly. "Sit," he said. It wasn't a request. She sat. He pushed a container toward her. "Eat first. Then we talk." The food was warm, familiar, comforting. She hadn't realized how hungry she was until her stomach growled. They ate in silence. Kang didn't make small talk. He didn't watch her closely. He just ate, calm and controlled like everything else about him. When they finished, he set his chopsticks down. "You'll stay here until this is resolved," he said. "You don't contact anyone from your old life. Not friends. Not work." Maribel swallowed. "For how long?" "As long as it takes." "You can't just keep me here," she said quietly. "I'm not keeping you," Kang replied. "You're free to leave. But the people Luca borrowed from don't care that I paid them. They care about respect. And right now you are still a risk." Her hands curled into fists. "What did you do to Luca?" "He's alive," Kang said. "For now." That answer told her more than details ever could. She studied him. "How powerful are you?" Kang met her gaze without hesitation. "Enough." Silence settled between them. Then his eyes dropped to her shoulder. The thin scar there was old, but visible in the soft light. Maribel instinctively pulled her shirt higher. Kang's jaw tightened. "That won't happen again," he said. It wasn't comfort. It wasn't a promise. It was certainty. She nodded slowly. That night, lying in the large quiet room, Maribel finally understood something she hadn't before. Kang Dae-hoon hadn't stepped in by accident. He hadn't saved her out of kindness alone. He had reach, power, control. And now she was inside it. Whether that meant safety, or something else entirely, she didn't yet know. Maribel woke to voices. Not loud. Not angry. Just sharp enough to cut through sleep. She sat up slowly, her heart already racing, and listened. The penthouse was dark, the city lights glowing faintly through the windows. Kang's voice carried from the main room, low and controlled. She slipped out of bed and moved toward the door, careful not to make a sound. "I paid the contract in full," Kang said. "That should have ended this." There was a pause. She couldn't hear the other voice, but she felt the tension in his silence. "No," Kang continued. "There will be no renegotiation." Maribel pressed her ear closer to the door. Another pause. Longer this time. "I don't care what precedent it sets," Kang said quietly. "She is not available. Not to you. Not to anyone." Her stomach tightened. Then his voice dropped even lower. "If you have a problem with that, I'll meet you myself." The call ended. Maribel backed away from the door, her heart pounding. She didn't fully understand what she had just heard, but she knew enough to feel afraid. Kang stepped into the hallway moments later. He stopped when he saw her. "You weren't supposed to hear that," he said. "Who were you talking to?" she asked. He hesitated. That scared her more than anything else. "The Calderi Group," Kang said finally. "They're not accepting the payment. They want proof you're no longer collateral, or they want double." Maribel swallowed. "How much is double?" "More than you need to worry about." She took a step toward him. "You can't do this alone." "I already am," he replied. How? He looked at her for a long moment. Then he turned toward the door. By making them understand that touching you means dealing with me. The door closed behind him before she could say anything else. Kang left that evening with Minjae. He didn't say where he was going. He only told her to stay inside. Maribel agreed. She waited an hour. Then another. Her thoughts wouldn't stop. Every quiet second felt heavier than the last. She walked the penthouse, trying to distract herself, until she noticed Kang's jacket draped over a chair. She didn't plan to search it. But her hands moved anyway. Inside the lining she found a second phone. Smaller. Plain. A burner. Clipped beside it was a small black device she recognized instantly. A tracker. Her chest tightened. She opened the app connected to it before she could change her mind. The signal blinked across the map. Dock 17 storage facility. 20 minutes later, Maribel stood outside the warehouse district, parked a block away. The air smelled of oil and metal. The building ahead was dark except for one strip of light along the side. She crept closer, keeping to the shadows. Through a broken window she saw them. Kang stood in the center of the empty floor, hands in his pockets, calm as ever. Minjae waited a few steps behind him. Across from them were two men, older, heavy-set, their suits stiff and cheap. One held a folder. The men spoke sharply. Kang listened. He pulled a paper from his jacket and handed it over. The man glanced at it, then shook his head and said something angry. Kang didn't react. The man pointed at him. The other laughed. Then Kang straightened. Slowly, deliberately, he unbuttoned his jacket. The room changed. The laughter stopped. The man holding the folder stepped back. Minjae's hand moved slightly to his side. Ready? Kang spoke. Just a few words. Whatever he said worked. The folder was set down. Hands lifted in surrender without being asked. Kang didn't raise his voice. He didn't touch anyone. He didn't have to. Maribel backed away before anyone could see her. She ran to her car, drove back to the penthouse and was sitting on the couch pretending to read when the door opened. Kang stepped inside. His eyes went straight to her shoes. Dusty. Where were you, Maribel? He asked. She couldn't answer. You followed me, he said. I needed to know, she whispered. I couldn't just stay here and wait. You were supposed to, Kang said. His voice stayed calm, but something dark moved under it. Do you know what would have happened if they saw you? She shook her head. They would have taken you, he said. Not to negotiate. To make a point. And I wouldn't have been able to stop it. Tears burned her eyes. I'm not a prisoner. No, Kang replied. You're someone I'm trying to keep alive. He turned away, running a hand through his hair. You don't know this world. You don't get to break its rules. I'm sorry, she said softly. He was quiet for a long moment. Then, I can't protect you if you don't listen. She nodded. Next time, Kang said, the mistake could be fatal. The words stayed with her long after he walked away. The days that followed were too quiet. Maribel stayed inside the penthouse while Kang came and went without explanation. Mornings passed in silence. Nights stretched long and empty. No threats. No calls. No sudden danger. It should have felt like relief. Instead it felt like waiting. On the fifth day Kang came home early. Maribel knew something was wrong the moment she saw his face. Not anger. Not calm. Something tight held back. Luca contacted them again, Kang said. Her stomach dropped. Who? The Calderi group, he replied. He reached out directly. Maribel stood slowly. Why would he do that? He told them you're being held here against your will, Kang said. That I bought you. That you're a prisoner. The words made her feel sick. He's lying, she said. I know, Kang replied. But lies don't matter when desperation sets in. Maribel hugged her arms around herself. So what happens now? Kang didn't answer right away. He walked to the counter and set his phone down. His jaw tightened. I spared him once, he said finally. She looked up. Spared him? That night at the gala, Kang said. I could have ended it there. I didn't. I let him walk away. Maribel felt a strange mix of anger and disbelief. And now? Now he's proving why that was a mistake. Silence filled the room. He won't stop, will he? Maribel asked quietly. No, Kang said. As long as he's breathing, he'll keep trying to trade you for his own survival. Maribel swallowed hard. Her hands trembled, but her voice didn't. If he disappeared, she said slowly, I wouldn't mourn him. Kang looked at her then. Really looked at her. Are you sure? He asked. She nodded. He sold me. He dragged me in public. He never stopped hurting me. If he's gone, the fear goes with him. Kang studied her face as if searching for doubt. He found none. Then trust me, he said. I'll finish this. What does that mean? Maribel asked. It means Luca won't be able to hurt you again. Kang turned and walked toward the door. She followed him a few steps. Are you going to kill him? Kang paused, his back to her. He'll live, he said. That's more than he deserves. Then he left. Night came slowly. Maribel sat on the couch, staring at the door. Every sound outside made her flinch. She checked her phone again and again. No messages. No updates. Nothing. Midnight passed. Then 1 in the morning. Then 2. She didn't sleep. She didn't move. Just before dawn, the door opened. Kang stepped inside like he'd only been gone an hour. His clothes were clean. His hands steady. His face unreadable. Is it done? Maribel asked. Yes, he said. Her heart pounded. Is he? He's alive, Kang said. He's at St. Alara Medical Center. She let out a breath she didn't realize she'd been holding. What happened? She asked. Enough, Kang replied. He's been charged. Fraud. Assault. Witness tampering. Maribel stared at him. You made it stick. I made sure it couldn't be undone, Kang said. By the time he leaves that hospital, he'll be walking into a cell. Her knees weakened. She sat down slowly. He can't reach me anymore? She asked. No, Kang said. His access is gone. His money is frozen. His words don't matter. Maribel closed her eyes. For the first time in months, the weight in her chest lifted. You're free now, Kang continued. The debt is gone. The threat is over. You can leave if you want. She opened her eyes. Leave? Yes, he said. You don't owe me anything. She looked around the penthouse. The quiet. The safety. The man standing in front of her who had ended the nightmare she couldn't escape on her own. And if I don't want to leave? She asked. Kang held her gaze. Something softer passed through his eyes. Then stay, he said. Maribel nodded. For the first time the choice was hers. And she chose to stay. 3 weeks passed before Kang mentioned the gathering. Maribel had almost begun to believe the danger was truly over. Life inside the penthouse had settled into a quiet routine. No sudden alarms. No raised voices. No fear waiting behind every sound. She slept through the night now. She walked to the windows without checking reflections first. The world felt steady again. That was when Kang spoke. There's a gathering tonight, he said calmly as if he were mentioning dinner. Maribel looked up from the book she hadn't been reading. A gathering? Yes. She hesitated. Where? Kang met her eyes. At the Aurelia. Her chest tightened. The same place. The same room. The same floor where Luca had dragged her under the chandelier while everyone watched. I don't have to go, she said quietly. You don't, Kang agreed. But I want you there. Why? She asked. Because it's time people know where you stand. Her heart skipped. Where do I stand? Kang didn't answer right away. He simply held her gaze, steady and certain. With me. The Aurelia looked exactly the same. Marble floors. Soft lights. Familiar music drifting through the space. The moment Maribel stepped inside, her body reacted before her mind could catch up. Her breath shortened. Her fingers curled. Kang's hand rested lightly on her lower back. Not gripping. Not claiming. Grounding. She focused on that as they walked forward together. The room noticed. Conversations softened. Heads turned. People watched openly this time, not pretending. Some nodded at Kang with respect. A few looked at Maribel with quiet curiosity. A woman near the bar smiled at her. A man nearby greeted her by name. She hadn't realized how deeply Kang's presence reached until she saw it reflected in others. They moved toward the center of the room. The same space where she had once been powerless. Kang stopped. Maribel stood beside him, her pulse loud in her ears. This is Maribel, Kang said calmly. His voice wasn't loud, but the room heard him. She's not a guest, he continued. She's not under my protection. Maribel's breath caught. She's with me. The meaning settled instantly. The air changed. Some people smiled. Others looked away as if they had just been reminded of a rule they didn't dare question. A man across the room lifted his glass slightly in acknowledgement. Congratulations, he said. Kang didn't respond. He placed his hand on Maribel's shoulder. A statement. A boundary. As the evening continued, they moved through the room together. Kang spoke with associates. Maribel listened, learning how this world worked not through words, but through posture, tone, and silence. Then she heard it. A quiet comment from behind them. Oh, sure. Too familiar. Something about her past. Something about Luca. Her body stiffened before she could stop it. Kang felt it. His hand moved, not fast, not dramatic, just enough. His fingers rested at the edge of his jacket. He didn't open it. He didn't speak. The man went pale. I meant no disrespect, he muttered quickly, stepping back. My apologies. He left the room moments later. Maribel stared after him, stunned. Kang leaned closer. You okay? He asked. She nodded slowly. She was. Not because the room was safe, but because she was no longer alone in it. As the night wore on, Maribel understood something she hadn't before. Kang hadn't brought her here to protect her. He had brought her here to be seen. Seen standing tall. Seen unafraid. Seen chosen. When they left, Kang's hand returned to her back as they walked toward the exit. The chandelier overhead glowed softly, no longer a threat. Maribel looked up at it once more. This time she didn't feel small. She felt anchored. Her status had changed. Not because someone owned her. Not because someone guarded her. But because she stood beside a man who made the room listen, and she chose to stand there. And the room knew it. The chandelier glowed above Maribel like it always had. Crystal light spilled across the marble floor, catching in polished shoes and glasses raised in easy laughter. The music was soft. The room was full. Everything looked the same as it had before. But Maribel was not. She stood beneath the chandelier, right in the center of the space where she had once been dragged, bent, and humiliated. The memory still existed, sharp and clear, but it no longer owned her body. Her shoulders were straight. Her breathing steady. Her hands relaxed at her sides. No fear. No hiding. She didn't scan the crowd for exits. She didn't brace herself for pain. She didn't wait for someone to pull her backward into the past. People moved around her with quiet awareness. Not avoidance. Not pity. Recognition. Kang Dae-hoon stood a few steps away, speaking calmly with two men whose posture told her everything she needed to know. They listened. They didn't interrupt. When Kang finished, they nodded and moved on. His presence didn't need volume. It didn't need threats. It simply existed. Maribel felt it the way the room did, like gravity. She turned slowly, taking in the faces around her. Some curious. Some respectful. Some carefully neutral. No one challenged her place here. No one questioned why she stood where she did. That alone told her how deeply things had changed. She hadn't returned to prove she was unafraid. She had returned to prove she was still standing. Kang met her gaze from across the room. Not calling. Not signaling. Just looking. A quiet check-in. She nodded once. Enough. He joined her under the chandelier, close but not crowding. The space between them felt intentional, balanced. You don't have to stay here, he said quietly. I know, Maribel replied. You don't owe me anything. I know. His eyes searched her face, not possessive, not demanding. Just careful. This is still your choice, Kang said. She looked up at the chandelier one last time. At the light. At the memory. At the place where she once felt small. Then she looked back at him. I'm here because I want to be, she said. Something softened in his expression. Not triumph. Not relief. Respect. Kang nodded. Good. They stood together as the evening unfolded. Conversations flowed around them. Power moved in subtle ways, through glances, pauses, silences that spoke louder than words. Maribel watched it now with new understanding. She belonged here not because Kang said so, but because no one dared suggest otherwise. As the gathering wound down, Maribel felt something settle inside her. Not comfort. Not certainty. Resolve. The past hadn't disappeared. Luca's shadow still existed somewhere beyond the walls of this room. The world Kang moved in was not gentle. It did not forgive easily. It did not forget. And neither would she. She knew this wasn't the end. It was a beginning shaped by choice, not fear. By standing, not running. Kang offered his arm as they prepared to leave, not to guide her, not to shield her. To walk beside her. Maribel took it. Together they stepped away from the chandelier, leaving the past where it belonged, behind them, visible, acknowledged, but powerless. Whatever came next would not catch her unaware. She would meet it standing. And when the future came knocking, it would find her exactly where she chose to be.